Hi, this is Simon Obstell and welcome to another tutorial for Apple Motion. And today I want to show you how to create this highly stylized neon signage. Now it looks as though there are lots of components to this, but the surprising thing is it's all built out of one layer and a big stack of filters. So let's take a look. Okay, so I'm using 1920 1080, 24 frames a second, duration of 10 seconds. I'm going to come down, I'm going to select the text tool, and I'm going to go through the laborious business of typing out some text. I'll come back when I've sorted it out, because you don't want to watch me typing. So here we go. I've chosen Druk Medium. I've made it nice and big. What else have I done? Centered it here, centered it there. So usual story. So, and I've made it white, but actually what I'm going to do first of all is select this group and make it black. Just wanted to make it white so you could actually see it. So I'm going to come to color and negative. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a stroke. So border stroke. I'm going to choose white for the color. I'm going to have a width of 5, set the position to inside. I'm just going to set that fade inside value to 30. So the next thing I'm going to do is to add the filter that actually drives the whole thing in a very surprising way. So it's filters, glow, and glint. So I'm going to have an exposure of 5. I want a glint size of 50. I want 2 streaks. And I want to turn the glow amount down to 0, and I don't want any of that colour fringing. So you can probably already see that we've kind of segmented our text because it's kind of picking up on the outline and drawing lines around it. So very nice. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that negative above that glint. So hold down the Alt or Option key, drag that above the glint. So we've got the negative of that. Next thing I'm going to do is add a colour threshold. I'm going to have a threshold of 0.6 and a smoothness of 0.5. And then I'm actually going to duplicate that threshold. So right click, duplicate. For this next one, I'm going to have a threshold of 0.4 and a smoothness of 1. Then I'm going to add an unsharp mask. So sharpen, unsharp mask. I'm going to crank the radius up to 32 and the amount up to 2, which is as far as both of those will go. And then I'm going to duplicate it to intensify the effect. So right click, duplicate. Next thing I'm going to do is add another stroke. So I'm going to come to border and stroke. And I'm going to again set the color to white. I'm going to have a width of 9 and I'm going to have it centered, and I'm going to fade the inside width 30% and the outside 40%. So the next thing I want to do is add a basic luma keyer, so masks and keying luma keyer, and you see that's kind of removed all that sort of extraneous stuff from around the side, and we're getting much closer to our final look now. Then I'm going to add masks and keying matte magic, and what I want here is a shrink value of 0.45 and an erode value of 1.75. Then I'm going to add filters glow and basic glow like that, and I just want to reduce the threshold down to 0, and I'm just going to back off on that mix value a bit because it all goes a bit soft, so 75% on that. And then I can come to filters and add a glow neon. So for this I'm going to crank the outer glow up to 300. I'm going to crank the edge intensity up to 15, and let's have a mix value of 15%. So then I'm going to take this group and I'm going to clone it. So just to add a little bit of extra value, so right click, make clone layer. And to this, I'm going to add filters, color and threshold. And I'm going to leave the threshold at its defaults. I'm going to come over to properties, however, set the blend mode to add and the opacity value to 50%. And let's add parameter behavior randomize. Let's set the amount to 50%, the apply mode to add and subtract. And this is going to give us a little bit of flicker like that. Once we've got all the rest of the animation in, it's going to look good. So then let's actually do a bit more animation. Let's come back down to our original text and add text animation sequence text. So let's add format opacity and set that opacity value to 97%. Let's select through inverted and have a spread of 2. Let's have 15 loops and let's set the end condition to ping pong. And we also want to set the direction to random. So then it's going to give us this sort of flickering like that. Maybe that's too many loops. Let's go down to 12 maybe for the loops. You can see we're getting some nice animation of these internal sort of tubes, as it were. So the other thing I want to animate is the glint exposure. And let's again add parameter behavior, randomize to that. And let's have an amount of 0.1. Again, let's go for add and subtract. And let's reduce the frequency down to 2 for that. So now we're going to get this. And we're pretty much done. What we need to do is add a little bit of color to this. So I'm going to select my first group here. I'm going to come to Filters, Color, and Colorize. And really, you can choose whatever you want. I'm just going to fish around until I get something I like. So then let's close up these groups. Let's make a new group at the top to put them in. Drop those into there. Let's also be disciplined and add a color solid at the back. Make this black, or whatever color you want. I'm just going to make it black. So then I'm going to set this group here to be 3D. So switch that to 3D, and then I can add a camera. First of all, I'm just going to set that X rotation to 15 degrees. Let's come back over to the camera and set this angle of view to 70, make it all a little bit more dramatic. And then let's come over to properties, add a ramp behavior to the Y rotation. And let's have, say, -20 for the beginning, -10 for the end. Let's come back over and adjust the Z position. So add parameter behavior ramp on there. Start with -100 and with 220. And finally, let's just adjust that Y position with a ramp behavior, add parameter behavior ramp. And for this, let's just have an end value of 100. So we frame ourselves back up again. And the only other thing I want to do is I want to select this 3D group and I want to increase the scale to something like 140%. And now we're getting this bit of a mess. Probably want to do a bit of animation on the X position of the camera as well. Let's do that. So let's add a ramp to that. Come to our beginning. Let's just find something that looks good, where it's a bit more centered up. So -100 for that. Come to the end, and we want to go the other way. -75 looks good for that. So there you go. That's the effect. It's amazing how complicated it looks, but it actually is really rather simple because we're not having to sort of animate any of these individual components. They're just happening automatically out of that great big stack of filters. So anyway, I hope that's been interesting. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.